can function in an ongoing homeostatic way. It's an equilibrium condition. It's a sustainable condition. I think of it as the green zone, the green setting of the brain. All right? Good news. On the other hand, what happens if we feel over-challenged and we're not able to experience being fundamentally safe even if we're dealing with challenges or threats or danger? We are not able to feel fundamentally satisfied if we're dealing with losses or opportunities just out of reach. And we're not able, let's say, to feel fundamentally loved even as we grapple with issues in the relationship field. Then the brain has a second setting. It moves out of the green zone, which I call the responsive mode of the brain, and it tips into the fight or flight red zone, the reactive mode of the brain. Two settings of the brain. And in that state, in terms of the avoiding harm system, we tip into a state of fear, all right? Flight. We want to withdraw from what's unpleasant or resist it. Or, in terms of the reward-seeking part of the brain, the carrot-seeking part of the brain, we tip into a state of frustration, drivenness, and grasping, if you will. And in terms of the attaching to others system of the brain, when we experience that those basic needs for connection are not met, we tip into a state of envy or shame or loneliness or, in a word, heartache. This is the brain in the red zone. The body kicks into gear, the stress hormones flood through us, including moving back up into the brain, and we run from the lion, or we chase the opportunity, or we struggle with or cling to others. All right? Bodily resources are burned faster than we can take them in, long-term projects are put on hold, and the mind, in three basic words, is colored by a state of fear, frustration, and heartache, in terms of those three core systems and core needs. That's a brain that's colored strongly by qualities of resisting, in terms of the avoiding system, qualities of grasping, in terms of the approach and reward system, and a quality of clinging, in terms of the attaching to other system. Or in a single encompassing word, a brain colored by craving, and therefore suffering. So for those of you who are tracking what I'm doing, I'm trying to naturalize the Dharma. In other words, I'm trying to ground this ancient Buddhist psychology that's profoundly penetrating in its analysis of human psychology without reference in the frame that I'm working in to anything supernatural or metaphysical or transcendental. In that frame, the Buddha's analysis, of course, as you know, is that forms of craving lead to suffering. I'm asking myself, we understand the causes, the mental causes of suffering and their end. What are the underlying biological, evolutionary, neural causes of the mental causes of suffering and its end? So in this state in which we've moved into the red zone, this fight or flight reactive zone, Mother Nature's plan for us is that we spike, if you will, in terms of the red zone, the reactive mode, but we get out of the red zone quickly because in the wild, as our ancestors evolved, most stressful episodes end quickly, one way or another. Right? And one zebra gets nailed, the rest of the zebra herd is fine, and they go back to eating grass, kind of looking over their shoulder, right? That's the natural template. Brief bursts of red, hopefully ending well, with a long recovery in green, right? That's Mother Nature's plan. And if it goes like that, it's probably okay to have these red bursts, if you will, long green. But is that our modern life for most of us today? No. We may not have the spikes of running in terror for our lives, hopefully, not on a daily basis back in the Serengeti. But on the other hand, we experience chronic mild to moderate stress with no opportunity to recover. So we have spike, partial down, spike, partial down, spike, partial down. And then if we recover, we do things like overeat, drugs and alcohol, way too much television, Next thing you know, then you're stressed out again, on and on and on it goes. Right? Or we crank ourselves up with coffee in the morning to kind of get back on the daily battlefield. Right? What to do about it? Well, the problem is we're vulnerable to the red zone in three fundamental ways, just built into the brain. Three aspects of its negativity bias is what scientists call it. In the first place, we're rapidly moved out of the green zone, the responsive mode of the brain, because survival threats or opportunities have a lot of urgency and a lot of impact. If we don't deal with them immediately, we're going to be in trouble. Second, even if we feel relatively mellow, kind of in the green zone, you know, the internal dashboard is green, green, green in terms of our three needs. Still, have you ever noticed how hard it is not to feel any anxiety whatsoever? Right? Mother Nature wants us to be always a little anxious, even if we're just kind of eating the grass and it's all mellow. She wants us to be a little uneasy, correct? Same time, she wants our brain to be constantly scanning for the next thing to want. One more thing to want. Yeah? My precious, right? And then she also wants us to be looking around, you know? Like if we have any mates or partners, like who are you flirting with? Okay? Or, you know, how much do you love me today? I knew you loved me yesterday, but do you love me today too? You know, we're looking for that, right? So always a little edgy, always a little uneasy. It's hard to feel profoundly peaceful, profoundly contented, or profoundly loved and loving. Second vulnerability. The third aspect of the negativity bias is that the brain overlearns from pain. In other words, it overlearns from negative, reactive, red zone experiences. Never forget. Once burned, twice shy. Or as I put it, the brain is like Velcro for negative experiences, but Teflon for positive ones. The brain is very good, by evolutionary design, to learn from, it's very good at learning from the bad, and it's very bad at learning from the good. Right? And so you can see then the consequences. We start to accumulate what's called allostatic load, because it's not, the red zone is not really designed to be sustainable. It's designed to be a very quick burst that's not a long-term plan. So if we make it routine, as we do in modern life, with mild to moderate chronic stress, with very little periods of fully green recovery between these spikes, right? We start to accumulate wear and tear on our body in terms of the immune system, digestion, hormones, and so forth. We start depleting neurotransmitters like serotonin, so we're vulnerable increasingly to stress, to depression. And mentally, our mind is continually colored by this fundamental background sense of fear and anger in terms of the threat system, background sense of frustration, disappointment, and drivenness in terms of the approaching reward system, and an ongoing background sense of loneliness, disconnection, you know, kind of covered over hole in the heart, right? And then because we experience this way, we feel this way, we start acting in various ways toward other people that create vicious cycles. And then you can see this issue of the red brain, as it were, writ large globally. So if you have groups or nations or religions or what have you that feel threatened, well, they're going to, you know, that will cause the reactive mode of their brain to just go into high gear. If they feel frustrated or desperate or greedy, then they start gorging on the planet's scarce resources in this kind of frenzy of appetite. Or if people feel at all uneasy interpersonally, you know, we evolved in small bands that bred mainly internally. They succeeded when their members were very cooperative internally and were very aggressive externally. So we have that very strong capability, the two wolves in the heart, as it were, love and hate, to love us and fear, attack, and hate them, right? So what do we do when we've got 7 billion people shoved up close, cheek by jowl? You know, like in Life of Pi, the guy and the tiger in the lifeboat, 7 billion of us in one lifeboat, you know, vulnerable, one planet Earth. And so we're very prone to cling tight to us and fear and attack them. What to do, right? Well, you can intervene at lots of levels. You know, I'm like a methods guy, I'm a brain guy, so I intervene in terms of the mind and the brain. What can you do? Number one, get out of reactive episodes as fast as you can. Get out of the red zone as quick as you can. Because your brain is over-learning from the red zone. Every red zone episode makes you one smidge, if not 10 smidges, more vulnerable to a reactive, fight-or-flight, stressful, fear, frustration, and heartache experience. Right? Get out of the red zone as fast as you can. Second, do what you can outside yourself to prevent red zone experiences. You know, do what you can. Think about schedule. Think about not adding too many commitments. I should think about that myself. Think about doing what you can to create more safety in your world. You know, we do what we can, all right? Third, and perhaps most important of all, which will be my segue into the practice to do with you momentarily, is to again and again and again help this vulnerable Stone Age brain, which is really older than Stone Age. The nervous system is 600 million years old. You know, each of us has within us a kind of inner lizard, inner mouse, and inner monkey, you know, loosely associated with the 3 layers of the brain. So very loosely, that lizard needs a lot of petting. You're safe, little lizard buddy. It's okay. You know, the little mouse needs a lot of cheese. You have enough. It's okay. You're full. There's enough, right? And the monkey needs a lot of hugging. You're okay. And especially as what's called neuroplasticity, the capacity of the brain to learn goes down as you move back in time, the inner mouse, but especially the inner lizard, needs a lot of soothing and petting, right? We need a lot of experiences of safety. So the third way to deal with this fundamental issue, this is a design feature in evolution that I've described. The 3 needs, the 2 fundamental settings of the brain. That's a design feature, but in the 21st century, in many ways, it's a kind of design flaw. It's like a bug in the Stone Age brain. So the third thing we can do about it is, again and again and again, help it land inside, 10 seconds at a time, safe, fed, enough, connected, part of, seen, liked, maybe loved. Again and again and again. And help this brain take in the good. In other words, again and again and again, roughly 10 seconds at a time. Help it really land, because negative learning lands immediately. The brain fast tracks negative experiences into storage right away. Positive experiences, unless they're highly intense or novel million-dollar moments, need to be held in awareness past some loose threshold that's on the order of 5, 10, 20 seconds for them to have a chance of transferring from short-term memory buffers down into long-term storage. So we need to help ourselves really register it when our safety needs are basically met, when our reward-seeking or satisfaction-seeking needs are basically met, and really help it land when our needs for connection are basically met. Not necessarily perfectly. As Jean-Paul Sartre said, hell is other people. Okay? So, but basically met. Okay? And that's an opportunity for us 100 times over, 1,000 times over, 10,000 times over, to drill it into the brain through Mother Nature's well-intended lies. Be afraid, be hungry, be lonely. To drill it into the brain again and again and again that there's no basis for the craving that leads to suffering and harm. There's no biological, psychological, deep basis for the craving that leads to suffering and harm, because there's an internalized sense of needs already met, abiding as and engaging life fully, and sometimes passionately, on the basis of a prior, deeply grounded, unconditional state of fundamental peace, contentment, and love. That's the opportunity for us. 100 times over, 1,000 times over, 10,000 times over. And I don't care who's in charge of the country.